Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another day here at Reach and Reverie. I noticed this week specifically, and in the past couple of weeks leading up to now, that spring is really getting its foothold. After that snow we had about 2 weeks ago, the trees and the grasses and the plants are all starting to get a little bit of green color back into them, turning this desert that looks like what could possibly live out here to an actual really beautiful place full of green. Now, it may not be as green as some places in the world, but we will take it. You can see all of the mesquites are leafing out full of their green foliage. The cactuses are even getting greener. Here in the wintertime, our cactuses turn purple, so they're starting to come back to life with green. There's a cholla that's getting nice and green. He was looking a little purple and sad a couple weeks ago. We have our rainbow cactuses over here that are just so happy. They've been flowering. The flowers haven't opened up yet today, but they sure will. This morning is Easter weekend. We're enjoying a nice long weekend, staying home from work, and really noticing all of the beauty on the homestead around us is just really nice. Getting to take that time, not have to be anywhere. It's been really nice. As I've been working here on the property, I've been listening to some podcasts and Good Friday sermons. They've just been so good. It's a great weekend so far. What'd you find? What did you find, Evie? Yeah? We have a fox that comes onto the property and he marks. I think he's marking his territory, and Evie's always checking out his marking spots. He's the weirdest little fox. Does anybody else notice that foxes are just so weird? Like where they poop. And that's kind of odd to talk about fox poop, but he literally will like poop on things. Like there will be landmarks throughout the property that he doesn't just find a spot and poop. He will poop on like a piece of flagstone or poop on the side of a cactus. It's just weird, but he's all over the property, and Evie really likes to check out all of the places that he has flagged. Oh, I love how green it's becoming. What 1 or 2 days of rain will do in a desert. Everything gets their hopes up and gets all excited. Even these little guys. As Evie and I are wrapping up our morning walk this morning, I wanted to share with you guys an update on our fruit orchard. You can see we did start fencing this past weekend. We have the fencing material up on one side, so this side is done. And then on the other side, we still need to tie the fence on this side, but it is sitting up. It's just kind of loose. We're planning on doing this today, and then the other half down at the end, our last roll there, is laying out flat. So we have another 200 feet to tack up, and then we'll just have the ends to do. And we've been kind of stretching out this project as our fruit tree delivery has been delayed about 4 times, which we were really surprised with. I think their original estimated delivery date was something like March 30th, and then every time it gets to our delivery date, we get an email, your arrival date for your trees has been updated, and it just keeps getting pushed back. Well, later this week, we did get that positive email that said that they are now processing our shipment for delivery, and there's an estimated due date of sometime this week for arrival, which is really nice. Now we're getting excited that our trees are finally going to be here, but that also means we've got to wrap up our tree projects so that we can be ready when they arrive. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but I always am looking at the ground when I'm walking. We have harvester ants out here on the property. They are everywhere. They're generally gentle and calm for an ant variety, but if they do bite you, they have one of the worst bites that I can think of. Let me show you what's waking up. They're starting to rally right outside of their holes. They thrive in the cooler times of the day, like the mornings and the evenings. And you'll notice that at midday, like if I come home for lunch to check on things, they're not out. They are smart enough to go and spend the heat of the day down in the cool earth below. They're starting to wake up. But these guys, they are everywhere, and they're huge, huge ants. I mean, just look at next to my hand here. They're wider than the width of my finger. So they're moving a little slow this morning, but once the sun starts hitting them and the earth warms up just a little bit, they will get super, super active until close to lunchtime, and then they'll go back down into the ground until it cools off this evening. That's why we have some white spots on the ground in our garden. I'll show you guys when we get to the garden. We have some diatomaceous earth on their mounds in the garden. We're planning on coming back with maybe some vinegar to try to encourage them to move out of the garden area, because the last thing I want is to be on my hands and knees pulling weeds or planting or harvesting vegetables and get these guys crawling up and down my arms and legs. So in this orchard here behind me, we are going to be planting our first row of fruit trees this year. And we do plan on adding at least one row every subsequent year until this 1 acre orchard is full. So this year we're going to have 9 more trees shipped in. That's what we're waiting on. We have a couple already planted, so that'll be a total of 13 trees for our first row. And we chose varieties that all have low chill hours. And I also was looking at varieties that bloom a little bit later in the spring, because we don't get a lot of chill hours here in far western Texas in the Chihuahuan Desert, but we do tend to get late frosts and freezes. We did have a video that came out, I think this one would have been 2 or 3 videos ago, where we had a freeze after our last frost date in April. We typically get our last freezes in mid-March, so this was weeks after our estimated last frost date. We had a surprise snowfall, and that's something that in our area sets back a lot of fruit trees. A lot of the locals in our area that we have picked their brains for experience with fruit trees, they mention that they may only get fruit once every 3 or 4 years, because their fruit trees will flower out, get super beautiful, and then a freeze will come and they'll drop all of their blossoms. So that's something that we were looking into and thinking about when choosing the fruit trees that we have in our orchard. We got trees that bloom a little bit later, and we got trees that don't require as much chill hours, so that we can actually stimulate setting blossoms and growing fruit here in our orchard. So the first row, we're going to have a couple of cherry varieties. We have the Rainier and also the Lappin's cherry. We're going to have a Suncrest peach. We already have a Florida King peach planted. We already have a methley plum, but we're also going to have a ruby sweet plum. We'll have 3 apple varieties, which are going to be Granny Smith, Grimes Golden, and Pink Lady. And then down at the end, we're also going to have an Ayers pear and a Blake's Pride pear. We already have a Kiefer pear, and we plan on adding a local specimen that the locals call the West Texas hard pear, which we are hoping to get a cutting from, or potentially may add that next year if we don't get one in time this year. So we'll end up having a local variety that's super hardy, heat, pest resistant, and does really well out here in the Chihuahuan Desert. That will be added as well to this first row. In our spacing for our trees, we do have them 15 feet apart along the row, and the rows are going to be 15 feet apart as well, so that we'll have a lane in between each row. We probably will plant below the trees in the rows, but we won't plant anything between the trees here, so that we can still drive down with like a mower or get vehicles down the lanes as well. And then on either side of the trees in this fenced-in area, we have approximately 5 feet from tree center to the edge of the fence line here. And then when we get our second row in, we'll have about the same 5 feet from this row of trees to the fence as well. And then every year, whenever we add a row, so this fence right here is going to be good for us for the first 2 years, since it's going to include the first 2 rows. And when we get to year 3, we'll need to expand this fenced-in space, where we'll pull the T-post out along this side. We'll go back another 20 feet so that we can add the next row next year as well. So that's something that Josh and I... What are you doing over there? You're just watching the sunrise? Eve, come on. No running. She's not allowed to run because she broke her leg and it didn't heal right. And so she can do light exercise like walking, going for nice long walks, as long as it's low impact. So unfortunate because she's a running breed of dog, but we definitely don't want her to break her leg again. The last time she broke it... Evie, stop. Let me fix this for you so you're not dragging your leash. I keep the leash on her so that if she does run, she loses some privileges. But she's pretty trustworthy. Tries to stay close to me most of the time, so yeah. So I give her a long leash if she's behaving, which she generally does. But you can see, let me see it. So you could see where she broke her leg. She didn't grow the hair back there. She also gets a cone when we're not here because she'll lick it and cause sores, like hot spots. But you can see, especially when you look at it from this side, they had to pull out a chunk of bone. So she's got like a half moon cut out of her leg bone there, making her leg thinner and weaker in this spot. She had a sequestrium where part of her bone had actually died, and so they had to remove it because it was decomposing there inside her leg after she broke it. So she's got a little bit of a divot in the front of her leg here where she's missing some extra bone. And for these dogs, she is about 70 pounds and she is about 30 inches tall at the shoulder. So close to a Great Dane height, with these little legs that are as thin as beagle legs. So it causes them a lot more stress, especially on the front legs. They hold about 80% of their weight supported on the front legs. So with that leg being weaker, it makes it a higher impact for injuries like that. Yeah. And the first time she broke her leg, it cost us over $20,000 and about 2 years of extensive recovery and bandage changes. She had multiple surgeries. It was an ordeal. We were for about a year doing bandage changes daily or weekly or bi-weekly. And so we're a little bit traumatized and maybe a little bit overprotective. If she does break her leg again, being almost 8 years old, we probably won't spend another 20 grand trying to fix it or put her through another 2-ish years of therapy and surgeries. So we're going to avoid breaking that leg at all costs. Are you looking for rabbits? She knows a cottontail lives in this lane, so she always starts looking for him. We're gonna walk over to the garden now, and here in the garden we do have a couple of loose ends to tie up. Need to get my little trailer out of here so that looks nice and tidy. We have a little bit of cleaning up to do, getting the tools from his gate work, like the ladder and stuff, out of here. But we also have a couple of added additions. This is my seedling boot camp. This is where I've been pulling out the seeds to harden off this week. I've been taking them out of the greenhouse and setting them on these racks. And I have a total of 18 trays full of seedlings. So I typically have been putting some on this shelf and some down there so that they can both have ample sunlight, and it fills up all 3 of these shelving units. And with seedlings, especially seedlings that are grown inside or in a greenhouse, you really need to harden off your seedlings before you plant them outside, and I'll show you why here in a second. But the seeds that are in this greenhouse are not exposed to the elements like the wind or the full direct rays of the sun. So a lot of times when you move seedlings out, they can get sun scald, sunburn, they can even die from the stress of the move. So we have plant boot camp, and I'll bring my seedlings out, and pretty much all this week I'll be having them out 3 or 4 hours, either in the early morning or in the late afternoon, not during the direct middle of the day harsh sunshine, but that way they can start getting prepped, let our plants get a little bit mentally prepared for their new lives in the real world or in our garden rows over here. What are you doing, Evie? What are you looking for? Hey. Hey. She's so sweet. Isn't Evie just the sweetest? Aren't you just the sweetest thing? And let me show you why it's so important to harden off your seedlings. The plants that I got at our local plant sale a couple weeks ago, I went ahead and planted out into the garden. I was under the impression that they were hardened off, but I think they needed a little bit more boot camp time before I put them in the ground. You can see here my very sad zinnias. The orange one is doing okay. He might bounce back, but my pink one and my yellow one, they got really badly sunburned the first day that I planted them out, and I think they're goners, you guys. That's what happens when you don't harden off your plants. They get sunburned and really stressed out, and they can die when you plant them out. The orange one, he got some sunburn, but he looks like he may be coming back. I think I'm gonna just continue to give him some TLC, and I may prune off all of the parts that are burnt and see if he's able to bounce back. Kind of the same thing with my peppers over here. Some of them are doing pretty good. My lunchbox red was a bigger plant, so he had a bigger root system, and I think he's doing good. But some of the other peppers, we have green bell peppers as well as sweet banana peppers in here, and some of them are doing good and some of them are shriveling up and overall experiencing symptoms of transplant shock and sunburn. So I'm just going to keep watering these guys, and anybody that doesn't make it, I'm probably going to pull out and plant another pepper in their place. These peppers are a little bit closely spaced together. Peppers like to hold hands, so I typically plant my peppers about 1 foot apart in a grid pattern. That way, as they grow up, especially with how windy it is here, they can kind of support each other in the wind and help pollinate each other as well. at you standing all pretty. You look like a show dog over there. Yes, you. This is my corn. Hey, get out of it. Get out of that. We're working on not getting in the beds. So this right here, this is our corn row. We already have the corn sowed. It's been in the ground for probably about a week now. I think I planted these guys out last Friday or Saturday, and it is now the following Saturday. And so I planted them 1 foot apart, so we have 4 in each column this way. And then I planted them about a foot apart as well this way. So we have a couple hundred corn seeds in this place. I am going to come back later and plant squash and pole beans also, but they'll be spaced approximately the same spacing that we see here with the peppers. And we do have some corn starting to come up. That little guy right there, he's about 1 inch tall. And I can see through here when I look really carefully that we have some little pops of green all the way down. So we're going to continue to water this and keep an eye out for corn and hopefully not step on it anymore, Evie. And see how well we do with corn this year. There's another little guy. Ooh, here's a big one. Down here, look at that. He's starting to unfurl. Yeah, I can see him all through here starting to pop up. We had a really bad dust advisory and windstorm yesterday evening. So I did come out here and I closed up all the windows on the greenhouse, and I took this seed rack and placed it over our T-post driver to help try to keep our greenhouse from flying away yesterday. Essentially, this door we hold down with stuff, like we've got buckets, and I have my T-post driver and bags of soil and rocks, because this will flap in the wind and we don't want any reason for this thing to fly away yet. You can see how it was rubbing on this last night. It was flapping around, and I was a little concerned with how strong our winds were that we were going to lose this thing last night. You can see some wind damage, the holes that it's created in here. And we do have some more wind damage from that dust advisory. And I did come back, and we have a hole here that's about 1 foot long where it's ripped up the side at the bottom, and so I just stuck some 2x4 or 2x6s over the hole to help prevent this from creating like a wind tunnel, because all the wind comes from this direction and it was wanting to balloon out with all of the wind that was coming in that little hole with all the windows closed. This whole thing just looked like an inflated balloon rocking in the wind. Evie and I are going to crawl through this entrance, and we're going to go in and check on our little seedlings and see how they did through that windstorm yesterday. I mean, they were protected in the greenhouse, but it sure was rocking and rolling, and I'm sure that they still did get a bit drafty in there. Oh, look at that little spider. Come on, Eve. Can you go get in? I know, it smells like fish in there, huh? It's pretty stinky. I just unzipped it and you can smell it. I fertilized with fish emulsion yesterday evening, just as like a little boost after the stress of the little guy's days having to be out in plant boot camp. So it smells like fish in here, which I do not like. Fun fact about me: I don't eat any seafood. I don't eat seaweed or kelp. I don't eat fish or shellfish. It just utterly does not sit well with me. I'm allergic to some aspects of that and have never had a taste for fish. So it smells great in here, huh, Evie? What I do for the love of my little plants. We did get a little bit of an upgrade now that we are very close to actually seeding these guys out into their permanent homes, but this is a long-term investment. We can use these seed shelves in either this greenhouse if we use this greenhouse again, or if we build a greenhouse, we can move them over there. So this was really sweet. Josh got this on Facebook Marketplace, these shelving as well as the shelving outside. He got all of those for a really nice low price, and we have taken down the moving blanket that was a divider, opened up this space, and we have everybody lifted up off the ground, and they're really close to the height of the windows. So I am going to come in and open these windows as I exit the greenhouse, and it's going to create a breeze through this, and it'll blow on the plants so that they will get some extra stabilization. You do want movement over your plants. Every time I come through here, I do touch them, and because it helps make the stems stronger. If they never experience any stress, these plants will be tall and spindly and really breakable. And if you have the wind on them, or the air, or a fan, or a breeze, they'll actually get thicker stems and be stronger plants. This guy, I was worried about this tomatillo. He's got a little bit of a curve to him today. After I moved him out yesterday, we had a little bit of the beginning of the windstorm was started when I had come to move these guys back in here. This tomatillo was laying on the ground like this, and he was curved up. But even just overnight, coming in here, I gave him some fish emulsion. I let them be in the safe greenhouse overnight, and he's straightened up. But you know what? That shows you he's resilient. He's going to be stronger. So next time he's out in the wind, he's had time to recover, and he's going to do really good. And you can see that with us taking him outside just for a few hours yesterday and bringing him back in, they're not sunburned at all, but they are going to start getting darker green on their leaves. They're going to be getting their base coat on, as we like to say here, and then they'll be ready for the real world. I feel a little bit insecure about showing the size of these plants going into the garden this year. Typically when I plant out my seedlings, at least my tomatoes, are like 12 to 15 inches tall. And these guys are about 4 to 6 inches tall right now. There's a couple of them that are a little bit taller, but we are set back and behind this year a little bit, because we lost our first greenhouse in a windstorm. And so having to start our seeds over again, we are a little behind. But I'm thinking I'd rather plant these guys a little bit younger than keeping them in a greenhouse until they're the height I want them to be, because I'm afraid that if I wait too long, it's going to be even hotter, and it's going to be more of a shock trying to plant them out. If I were to wait until mid-May or late May, I feel like we get really hot out here, and I kind of want them to establish and get their root systems growing in the ground before we get into our extreme weather that we get here. So I thought that if they're younger, they'll probably be a little bit more adaptable, and so we're just going to go with it. But a little bit of what we have growing on here in our greenhouse, we have, I think this whole tray is mostly squashes. So we've got things like, I think that's Blue Hubbard is a type of squash. We also have things like, I think this is a cheese. Oh no, it's a honey boat squash. We've got a cheese squash right here. And so we've got, I think in this tray we have 2 cheese squashes, 2 Hubbards, and we've got honey boat and a Seminole pumpkin there. This bed we have, this tray we have tomatillos. These are all tomatillos. We have a random tomato plant growing in our tomatillo cup. This is likely because when we lost our first greenhouse and all of our seeds flipped over, some of the cups spilled into cups that we already had planted out. So this mystery tomato is a tomato that is a survivor. He fell out of his original cup, landed in the tomatillo cup, and is growing up with the tomatillo. So when I plant this out, we'll have 2 tomatillo plants and a tomato that I will separate these guys out and space them apart so that all 3 can survive and thrive. And then when this guy finally goes and bears fruit, I will then know what kind of tomato it is. I suspect it's a Buratino, because Buratinos in my experience have a long and lanky and kind of spindly growth habit, and this one, he's kind of long and lanky and spindly. And I'll show you a one that I know is a Buratino. This tray right here is Buratinos, and you can see he has that same long, lanky growth habit. All 3 of these are kind of skinny, and they produce really well, but they kind of look disappointing, and the plant habit is kind of like, are you okay? And then he bears fruit and you're like, oh yeah, you're just weird looking. So compared to some of my more stout tomato plants, this one is a Chihuahuan Desert Star, which is actually a small saladette type tomato. It's a local stabilized hybrid. I actually got this from one of my professors in college, Greg Teagarden, and he gave me the seeds for this years ago, and I've been planting it in my garden every year since and saving seed from it, and it is an amazing variety. I don't know if he created the variety or where he got the seeds from, but Chihuahuan Desert Star, you could see, even being a small saladette type size tomato, it's short, it's stout, it's really nice growth habit, and it's a heavy producer. Here's another one. Just looking at it, I can tell it's a Chihuahuan Desert Star. So we have tomatillos in this flat. We also have some eggplants, and I also have ground cherries as well in that tray. And I've noticed that my tomatillos are already starting to bud up, and I've just been pinching off the flowers because I want them to focus on growing green foliage and good roots and not focus on making flowers yet, because they'll have plenty of time to flower when they're in the ground. But we don't want to stress them out trying to focus on making fruit and flowers when they're not even graduated out of their cups yet. We have a lot of tomatoes. I was planning to grow at least 40 tomatoes for that row that we have outside, and I did an inventory a couple weeks ago, and I simply wrote 40 plus because I stopped counting after we hit 40. We probably have about 65 tomatoes in here started in cups, for the simple fact that I wanted to make sure we had enough. So some cups have more than one. And so when I get these out of the cups, I'll just separate them and still space them really nicely apart. But we have a lot of varieties of tomato, including, we've already saw Chihuahuan Desert Star, suspected Buratino. We have Blue Beauty, Black Beauty, White Beauty. I like the beauties. We have Lemon Blush right here. We have other ones like, where is... I want to say this one maybe is Queen of the Night. It looks kind of like Queen of the Night. Queen K. You know you're a plant nerd when you can tell what your tomatoes are without looking at the labels, just because of the growth habits of these little seedlings. So this one looks like a blue or a black beauty. Black Beauty. They have fruit that have deep anthocyanins in them, meaning they're purple or blue or black colored. And looking at the bottom of these leaves, the leaves are purple and the stems are purple. So it already is showing that it has a lot of anthocyanins in it. So we have a lot of different tomato types in here. You can see some of them are weird shaped. And that would have been because before we built this greenhouse, the ones that lived in our old greenhouse disaster, I kept them alive in our shop until we could build this thing. So like this one got real long and leggy, and I thought he was gonna die, but he bounced back and he's really strong and he's gonna do just fine. And we have a couple that look like that as well. But what you could do is plant these tomatoes really deeply, and anywhere under the ground is going to grow more roots, creating stronger plants. So I'll just bury him basically up to his crown, and you'll never know that he was funky shaped. And he'll still produce fruit for us. So we also have a lot of cucumbers. This one specifically is not a cucumber. He kind of looks like, it makes me think of that song, one of these things is not like the other. Yeah, you see his leaf shape is different. Maybe you see that? This is a loofah, which is a type of gourd. But we also have, and you can see right here, this one has really dark leaves. This is what the loofah looks like when it comes out of the ground before it grows true leaves. These are what you call cotyledons. They're the first leaves, the seed leaves, and so they don't look like the true leaves. So after the cotyledons come out, they start producing their true leaves, which can kind of give themselves away on their identity if you forget to label your cups, like sometimes I do. But yeah, we have a lot of different cucumbers in here. We have dragon egg cuke. We have little cucamelons, which are Mexican sour gherkin. We've got Boston pickle. These guys are not sick, but they have a weird discoloration to their leaves. Does anybody know what that is by looking at it? This is a watermelon, and you can tell by the leaf shape on that one versus the cucumber leaf shape or the gourd leaf shape. This is a watermelon, and because it's got these yellow freckles on it, it's a type of watermelon that even the fruit has these yellow freckles on it. It's called Moon and Stars. And you can see my two Moon and Stars, they both have that yellow freckles on them. It's super cool because the fruit is a solid green fruit, and then it has yellow moon and star pattern all over it. We also have we've got Sikkim cucumber, Armenian yardlong, which is a melon, but we eat it as a cucumber. We have lemon cukes, Indian snake cuke. What do you think about that label? We have lemon cukes, Indian snake. Yeah, we've got a few varieties of cucumbers. I don't even remember what all I planted. Lots of Boston pickles, sugar bowl. That's actually a gourd as well. Sugar bowl is, and see the leaf pattern, it looks more like a cucumber. So it kind of threw me off, but our sugar bowl is a gourd that creates like birdhouses, so we can, I think that'd be really cool to stand up, maybe paint and sell birdhouse gourds. But yeah, so we've got lots of cucumbers. I have some marigolds planted. These marigold seeds were really old, so we have pretty poor germination in here. Not a very good ratio from what came up from what I planted. We also have a lot of peppers. I think I've got about 45 that germinated out of the 65 that I wanted. We've got habanadas. We also have cayenne. We've got ají cachucha. We have buena mulata, cubanelle, blat. We have 3 different kinds of jalapenos, probably 4 or 5 different kinds of bell peppers. Mini bell. You can see the bell peppers have a more robust growth habit. I think the ají cachucha has like a more rounded leaf habit. Our habanadas have more of a short, compact growth habit, which is kind of cool. But yeah, we've got, I try to do equal sowing of the different types of varieties. So I did some cayenne type peppers, bell type peppers, jalapeno type peppers, and then some random ones like habanadas that I can't not grow. We've got some herbs, hollyhocks in that one as well. And then we also have, I have some lupins. These are Katrina cucumbers right here, which is like a self-pollinating type of cucumber, great for greenhouses or high tunnels. We also have basils. Grew 3 types of basil this year. This is desert willow, which is a native tree. And then we also have, oh yeah, I've got a mountain laurel, which is a native tree as well. And more peppers and herbs and miscellaneous stuff over here. And the way I the way I spaced out stuff in this greenhouse is we have all the stuff that I really want to get strong with the wind on this side, because when I open the windows, the wind comes in this window. And then I kept the stuff that doesn't really like the cold as much on this side, like our peppers, so they're farther from the draft that comes through. So the peppers are a little bit more sensitive and can get stunted by cooler nights than things like the tomatoes and the tomatillos. Are you ready? We're gonna get out of here. That was a pretty long-winded tour of what's going on and updates here on our homestead. We're excited. We're kind of in that in-between phase of having the plants ready to be planted out and getting them into the ground. I'm going to continue plant boot camp this week, and I'll keep you guys updated when it's time to plant in the ground. We'll also give you guys an update when we get the orchard in. You can't hear it right now because it's not windy yet, but I did also put little pinwheels all in the garden, and it has a hum to it when it's windy. But I did this to try to keep birds away from the seedlings that start popping up here in the next few weeks. I also put a couple little fake snakes out here to try to keep sparrows away. Snakes do attract hawks, by the way. So if you have free-ranging chickens, that is a word of the wise, is maybe don't put the snakes out. But I don't free-range my chickens enough to worry too much about it, and when I do free-range them, I keep a very close eye on them. But something to keep in mind, I've done this in the past, and it does attract hawks. So pinwheels are going. Corn is growing. We're ready for spring. If you want to stay up to date with what's going on here on the homestead, don't forget to subscribe. That way you don't miss a beat.